April 15, 1848, Sisters Emily and Mary Edmonson embarked on a courageous journey. This journey would challenge the spirit of a nation, and it would change their lives forever, forever, forever. In the cruel system of slavery, enslaved people were expected to bear many children, and that expectation was sometimes rewarded. 16 children Paul and Amelia had. Paul was freed after a promise from his enslaver upon his death. However, Amelia and their children, a total of 15, were not. He was encouraged by all who were enslaved, especially his common wife Amelia, to leave the plantation for freedom, a freedom that they themselves believe would never happen for them in their lifetime. Emily and Mary Edmonson, along with her other siblings, continued their lives as servants, laborers, and skilled workers in bondage. Years later, what they thought was a chance for the family to reunite up north with their father finally appeared. A schooner called the Pearl was set to sail north, and for a fee, there would be space for at least 50 black people to stow away on board. The vessel docked at the Washington Wharf. After careful deliberation, it was decided that Mary and Emily, along with 6 of their brothers and sisters, would take the risk and attempt escape. The vessel's route was to travel up to Delaware Canal towards freedom. On April 15, 1848, Emily and Mary, with 4 of their brothers, slipped into a larger plan. 77 enslaved people moving in silence toward the Pearl tied up at Washington's Wharf. Hidden among crates, the schooner eased down the Potomac, aiming for the Chesapeake, the Canal, and a line called Freedom. Here's where history recorded 2 versions of the story. One is that a passing steamer noticed something off. Word raced back to the city, and the chase began. The other story told in slave quarters that it was a setup from the beginning to fleece the enslaved of their savings. The weather forced the Pearl into a creek to wait out a storm. There, armed men found her, seized her, and towed her back to Washington, straight into an angry crowd. The ship's 2 white captains were rushed to safety as violence flared. The fugitives were hauled to the D.C. jail. Someone jeered at the girls, asking if they felt ashamed. Emily answered without bending. She'd do it again. Exactly the same. Exactly the same. Exactly the same. Riots shook the city for 3 days, and as they raged, slave traders arrived, ready to buy human lives back into chains. The news of his daughter's capture set Paul Edmonson, still a free man, into a desperate attempt to delay the sale of his children. Paul Edmonson tried to raise the money to buy his children's freedom, but time ran out. Before he could gather enough, they were shipped to New Orleans to be sold at auction. New Orleans was notorious for its fancy trade, a brutal market where young enslaved girls were targeted for exploitation. Paul managed to secure the freedom of one of his sons. Together they worked to raise the funds to purchase the freedom of his 2 daughters, Mary and Emily. But the money did not come in time to save all of his children. One of his sons was sold away into harsher bondage. Their enslavers, Bruin and Hill, agreed to sell Mary and Emily for $2,250. Paul refused to give up. Backed by letters from supporters in Washington, he traveled to New York to the offices of the Anti-Slavery Society to appeal for help. Prominent abolitionists, including historian and political figure William Still, Reverend Henry Ward Beecher, and Frederick Douglass, helped rally the public and raise the required amount, finally securing the sisters' freedom. Paul's persistence reunited part of his family and helped expose the broader cruelty of slavery to the nation. Mary later died of tuberculosis in 1853. Emily continued abolitionist work, including alongside Frederick Douglass, and lived for decades after the Civil War. Remembering the courage of Emily and Mary Edmonson,